Hi, I'm Todd Davis from Seabury Design. Today we're going to explore how to create DotNetNuke modules. Probably the most asked question on the DotNetNuke forums is how do I create my own custom modules for DotNetNuke? What is the data access layer and the business logic layer, and how do I leverage those in my own modules? Why is everything so complicated? And finally, how do I package my module for distribution? What I'm going to attempt to do today is take you through the entire process of creating a DotNetNuke module from start to finish, but rather than just handing you some code and then going over it rotely, what I'm going to do is actually take you through the process. I have no pre-compiled code here, nothing's written, so together we're going to actually start the process from scratch, build a blog module for DotNetNuke, and get it implemented all, and see how you test it. And along the way we're going to make mistakes, see errors, and these are all good things because a lot of these mistakes and errors are very specific to DotNetNuke and the data access layer, and it's good to see how they're made and how you diagnose them and fix them along the way. Now I'm going to make a couple of assumptions before we get started here. First off, I'm going to assume that you are running with Microsoft's Visual Studio .NET 2003 or some version of .NET Studio. I'm also going to assume that you have SQL Server Enterprise Manager. And finally, of course, you're going to need a working copy of DotNetNuke. One other thing I'm going to assume is that you are familiar with ASP.NET and with SQL Server and stored procedures. I'm not going to be able to teach you those things within this video tutorial, so if you're not already a programmer that's familiar with these things, this video tutorial might be a little beyond what you're ready for. If you are comfortable with that, though, and you just need to get into the DotNetNuke environment, well, let's continue on. Now, the first thing you want to do is we're going to open up another window here. You're going to need to download some tools. What most of the developers are using these days is from DNN Jungle. And here we're going to go to that right now. And you can see the address up here is DNN Jungle vmanasnas.net. And what we're looking for is the Codesmith templates for DotNetNuke version 3 and the Visual Studio .NET project templates for DotNetNuke 3. And those are over here on the left-hand side. If you click, you'll need to download both of those and install them. The DNN project templates for Visual Studio are a set of templates that will go ahead and build the framework for our module for us. We're still going to have an awful lot of stuff to fill in, but it will give us the very basic components that we need to complete our own module. The Codesmith templates, on the other hand, will actually help us build our data access layer. So with all of those things in mind, make sure that they are installed. And they're already installed on my machine, so I'm going to go ahead and flip over into Visual Studio, click on New Project, and you'll see if you've installed the templates now, two new things that you didn't have before. C# projects for DNN3 and Visual Basic projects for DNN3. Since I'm a VB developer and everything in DotNetNuke is VB, I'm going to go ahead and develop in VB today. And we're going to create a blog module. Where we're going to put this is very important. There's two schools of thought as to how to build a module. One is to build it somewhere other than underneath the DotNetNuke framework, and then make a distributable package out of it, upload it to your DotNetNuke site, and test it out. This is kind of nice if you want to make sure that everything's going to work on the back end, but it makes the process of developing on your end very slow. So we're not going to take that route. What we're going to do is build our project right under DotNetNuke. Just taking a second here. We go. Under DotNetNuke and under Desktop Modules. This is where we're going to place our module. So go ahead and make sure that you've typed log in here, .NETNuke Desktop Modules, and make sure that DNN module is selected, and say OK. And just take a second, and what this template is going to do for us is build a complete set of objects for our module. I'm just going to go through these really quick so that you're familiar with them. Let me close these up and start down here. Blog.ascx is actually our module itself, and you'll notice that it is an ASCX, a user control. Every module in DotNetNuke is a user control, bottom line, as well as anything that we're going to use with it. So that's what that is, and blog edit is going to be the edit screen. So when we click on something and say add new blog or edit this blog, it's going to take us to this screen. And then there's settings, which is actually when you click on the module settings and there's things unique to just that module, that's where those are going to go. Module CSS is any CSS that you need to apply just to this specific module. So you don't have to mess with .NETNuke's CSS for the whole site. You can apply module-specific stuff right here. Here's an icon if you'd like to add it. I'm not sure if we will or not in this particular video. Up here in App Local Resources, if you've ever wondered how everything gets localized in .NETNuke. For example, if you log in the US, it's in English. If you log in Germany, it's in German. That's where this comes from. These resource files are actually XML files, and I'll just open up one real quick so you can see. Here's a nice little table that Visual Studio provides, and all of our labels and all of our drop downs, everything is going to come from this XML. And that way, if you do that up front, then when people want to internationalize or localize your module down the road, it's extremely easy to do so, and we'll be seeing how that works as we go through. Under the components directory, you'll see three items: blog info, blog controller, and data provider. These are some parts of the data access layer, and we're going to explain the data access layer a little later, but I just want you to be aware that these are here. There's nothing under documentation right now. That's for you to add later. And installation provides a basic DNN and zip file. And again, we're going to talk about these later when we get to actually distributing our application. Those are empty right now. And there's also providers, which is empty, but that's a problem because we're going to need a data provider. So let's create the data provider. What you're going to need to do is click on File, Add Project, New Project. This time we're going to choose SQL DNN, a DNN SQL data provider. Name it Blog, just like our module, but instead of putting it directly under desktop modules, go under blog and put it right under the providers folder, just where it belongs. And that's going to keep things kosher for us. And now we should have a second project in here called Data Provider. And the important part in here for right now is SQL Data Provider VB. And so in our very next video installment, we're going to start talking about the data access layer. We're going to build that and see how it all works.